Hello everyone, my name is Gimazak and welcome to the launch Q&A for ARA History Untold. This is an exciting time as we are mere days away from ARA's release. We still have a ton of content headed your way, so be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell to stay updated with our latest trailers, Encarta episodes, dev diaries, and post-launch offerings. And lastly, don't forget to pre-order ARA on Steam unless you already plan to play it day one on PC Game Pass. In today's video, we've gathered more questions from you, our wonderful community. So please keep those coming. And joining us for the first time is Xbox Game Studio executive producer Matt Turnbull. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you so much, Zach. I'm really excited to be here and so close to launch.
So some fans may already be familiar with you if they've watched the live streams from the last two Gamescoms, but for everyone else, can you give a quick introduction and let the audience know what your role on ARA History Untold is?
As he said, my name is Matt Turnbull. I'm the executive producer for Xbox Game Studios for ARA History Untold. And I've been with this project now and with this game partnering with Oxide since pretty much the very beginning. It's been this incredible honor to get to be able to see them bring this game to life and to be able to partner with them and bring our own expertise and our own help to the incredible deep strategy genre knowledge that they are bringing to the game.
So you've been working on this game for more than half a decade. How are you feeling as we approach launch?
It's been a journey for sure. I mean, when Oxide first came to us and started talking about this thing that they wanted to create, this dream game of theirs to sort of reinvent from the ground up or at least re-examine what it means to be a grand strategy game, what it means to be a historical game, what it means to be a 4X game. It was something that we at Xbox were so excited about because this is a new space for us. Obviously, we've made a lot of great strategy games in the past. We've partnered with teams that have made incredible games like Age of Empires, but this is our first true foray into turn-based strategy, into this grand strategy space, into making games for this audience. And so we could not be, again, happier to have an awesome partner like Oxide to be able to do this with. And it's just been a privilege. And I could not be more excited that we're finally about to be putting the final version of the game into people's hands.
That is so great to hear. Now, we have a lot of excited ARA fans out there, and hopefully we've been able to provide some answers. Our first question today comes from Rib Efok, who says, if you decide to skip some tech in favor of proceeding to the next era, what happens to the tech you leave behind? Does your civilization never discover writing, the wheel, or electricity if you skip to the next era?
The idea behind the abandoning of technologies as you go forward isn't so much to mean that you don't ever get a chance to learn about those things or you don't understand those things historically as a people. It's more representing the idea that it isn't where your nation focused their research. And so we have built into the large number of technologies across the game's 12 eras, a lot of redundancy wherein some critical texts will be found their way, critical things. Like you're going to discover how to make wheels, even if you never specifically dedicated your scientists to inventing the wheel. It just might come later on, and it might come later on with less of the other benefits that you get from explicitly focusing on researching the wheel. And so as you go through time in the game and as you progress through the eras, that push and pull of whether or not you're always trying to hit to the cutting edge, but at the expense of leaving behind some specialized things and some cool opportunities, it'll never leave you in a position where you've lost something critical that will prevent you from being able to proceed or something that's essential to the successful running of a nation that your people will have picked up through osmosis or through research into other technologies. But it will, however, limit your options in those areas. You won't have as many cool things that you can go do as focus on. So it's kind of a mix in that regard, but it is about that kind of push your luck mentality. Do I want to always run ahead, or do I want to be as thorough as possible? And what are the pros and cons to that choice?
Right, that makes sense. Okay, next question we have is from Conjecture, who says, about the turn limits, can the game last until someone conquers everyone or something else happens and not have an artificial end?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the game, honestly, the turn limit is there as, from my perspective, more of a backup. The basic premise of the game is that once all of the nations, or a large number of nations, a percentage of nations, have reached the technological singularity. They've reached the point where technology and humanity has gone beyond the bounds of what we can predict today about what we know about technology and what's going to happen in the world. That's when the game truly ends, and that's when you move into the end game and you start to finish the third act. So just like the other acts in the game, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 has a definitive end, and that definitive end is the same as the other acts. When you have a certain percentage of nations that have made it through the technology eras of that act and have made it through the future era to the technology singularity and into the singularity age, once that's done and completed, that's what really ends the game. And then it's the nation that had the biggest impact on history that wins. It's the one that had the largest prestige, which is earned from all the different sources you can earn prestige from. The turn limit is there to provide some boundaries or some ability to make shorter games, longer games, adjust it as we go. I think on the wide end right now, you can set a turn limit as many as like 1,250 turns, which is a very long game, obviously, with a lot of different options to go do things. But it's really there for customization. It's there for players to be able to choose how they want to play and where they want to play to. So you might, for example, go online and play a multiplayer game with a dozen of your friends and set a very early turn limit because your goal is to try to just finish the game by the middle of Act 2, for example. But no, there is a definitive endpoint to the game, and that is the end of Act 3. And that's the intention. Also, if every nation on the planet is wiped out except for one, that does also end the game prematurely, although that tends to be, I would say, a less common outcome of games of Ara History Untold.
Okay, so you can have short games or the mega long games. I know some people are into those. Our next question comes from Partha Promtim Barua 603, who writes, "Love the mechanics of the game so far. One small question: do general units, not unique units, have culture-specific unit designs, or do they all share some default unit designs?"
I would say the answer to this is yes with an if or no with a but. So our individual nations within Ara don't have very specific nation-specific designs. The game is intended to be an alternate history. It's a history untold, as if what if things changed over time? What if the world advanced in different ways? And, you know, as much as our cultures are ingrained into the spirit of our people and the way that people grow through time, they're also a reflection of the world around us and the events that happen. In Ara, there are many, many different art styles available for architecture, for clothing on your citizens, for different unit weaponry, for different unit. There's also a huge range of different skin tones. And as your nations blend together, as people immigrate and emigrate, you'll see these changes occur over time. You'll have districts or regions of your city that might be leaning towards one more architectural style one way versus another. And so, although the designs I wouldn't say are cultural specific, you won't have a specific like Zulu looking specific banner or specific Zulu, spearman unit. What you will have is units that are inspired by the types of, pan-continental cultures and across the world throughout all of human history. And you'll see different garb and different architecture and different components that take their cues from real world history, but as a reflection of the things that happen in the game.
All right, moving on. We have a question from Ramon El Sharif 385, who asks, is there any info on naval combat or naval units?
Yes. Sorry. No, we do. The game does have naval warfare. It has naval units in it. It has embarkation of land units and sea gameplay. I will admit, I don't believe we've shown a lot of that to date. I think that we've been holding sort of a lot of the stuff in Act 2, especially, which is kind of this exploration era where you're out in the world and kind of exploring the world's oceans, a little bit closer to the vest. I think as we get closer to launch and as we get to launch day, you'll start to see a lot more of that content come out. You'll hopefully get to see more videos and more elements of that. But there is naval gameplay around bombardment from shore. There's also, of course, naval gameplay about warfare directly on the seas, protection of transports. There are water-based trade routes that can happen, as well as the ability to, use naval forces to support invasions on the ground as well. And so all of that is featured in the game. It's just stuff that we haven't truly kind of put out a lot of content on yet. And so hopefully people get a chance to experiencing that, and it gets to be kind of more of a fun surprise when we launch.
And sticking with the topic of units in Ara, we had Mhut say, I assume not all units just go one tile per turn, What are the fastest units? And is there an influence because of terrain and roads?
Yes. So within ARA, we treat our regions as kind of, when you say tile, our sort of large irregular regions are considered to be like the individual space that a military force can take up. And that is because within ARA, a military force is often made up of multiple units. It can be several units in a formation that form one very large army, for example, or in an ocean region, you might have a flotilla or a small fleet of ships that forms one specific kind of military force, which is kind of the unit that you move around. But it'll be made up of multiple different units. Within the context of the game, there are speed to various units. And so things like horsemen will move quicker on land and will have more ability to move quickly across the map through multiple regions in a given turn. The critical thing there, though, is that because we have such a focus on mixed forces, your armies and your forces tend to move at the speed of your slowest unit. They tend to move at so if you have a unit of horsemen that are guarding, for example, a bunch of siege weaponry, your army, your force is only going to move as fast as your slowest unit, because you can't, get all the catapults up on horses and send them on their way. But beyond that, what I will say is there are also a number of abilities in the game from individual leaders that can do things like increase the speed of certain types of units or increase the ability of them to move across. For example, if you take some of the pioneer paragons that we have, people who are great explorers, and then assign them to be one of your advisors, that can actually increase the speed of all of your scouts. And so all of your scouts are all of a sudden moving multiple regions and additional spaces and exploring more quickly, because they're advising, your nation in the best way to be able to deploy explorers and things like that. So there are a number of factors that can kind of go into the speed, including terrain, including roads, including advisors, including leader abilities, and all of that can factor in. But every unit in the game has a base speed, and then depending on the composition of your forces, that kind of determines the number of regions you can move.
And thank you to our fans for watching. Subscribe for future content coming to the channel. Follow us on the social platforms of your choice. And don't forget to pre-order ARA History Untold on Steam before it releases on September 24th, 2024. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.